Dear students, in this video I am going to introduce you about the subject of fluid dynamics, which is a branch of fluid mechanics in which fluid motion is considered along with the causes of flow. This is the first video in this series. Fluid dynamics is a branch of fluid mechanics in which the fluid motion is studied considering all the forces causing that flow. And this fluid motion can be completely analyzed by the application of law of conservation of energy, mass and momentum. And we know we have their respective equations: energy equation, continuity equation and momentum equation. And together with this, we will be using Newton's second law for a rigid body of mass m, which is summation of all the forces, that is the net force acting on a body is directly proportional to the rate of change of momentum, and momentum is the product of mass and velocity. Since mass is fixed for a rigid body, we can take it out of the differential, and dv by dt is the ratio of change in velocity to the time or change in time, so it is acceleration. So we have sigma f is equal to ma, and we will be using this Newton's second law for analyzing the fluid motion along with the conservation laws. And the various possible fluid forces that may act on a fluid element are listed like this. That is, a gravitational force, that is due to its weight, that it can be equated by mass into acceleration. And flow work allows some pressure force. When there is a flow or when there is a pressure gradient, there will be a pressure force associated with this, and we'll consider that. And viscous force is due to viscosity, and you know that all fluids in nature are real, and the ideal fluid is only an approximation, but it's also it simplifies to a greater extent any numerical problem. And we can get this viscous force from Newton's law of viscosity. You know that the shear stress is directly proportional to the rate of change of shear deformation, and that shear stress we can have shear force from it. And turbulent force is due to the turbulence in the flow, that is the disorderly motion, the rapid mixing motion there, that may have an effect on fluid motion. And also surface tensile force, which tries to have the minimum surface area for a given fluid when it is in interface with another fluid, and also due to that is due to cohesive properties of the fluid mass. And also compressibility force, or it's also called elastic force, it is due to the elastic property. And you know that all gases are generally compressible compared to liquids. All generally liquids are assumed to be incompressible. You applying these forces in Newton's second law of motion for a fluid, then we can have this Newton's second law of motion or equation of motion, ma is equal to sum of all the forces. Depending on the types of forces considered in a problem, we can have different variations of equations of motion. If compressible forces are neglected in case of liquids, since compressible forces are dominant in gases, for a liquid if it is neglected, and also for surface tension forces are also neglected, then we can have the equation of motion reduced to ma is equal to fg plus fp plus fv plus ft, where the surface tensile forces and compressible forces are ignored. And this equation of motion is called as Reynolds equation of motion, which will be generally used in the analysis of turbulent flows. And laminar and turbulent flows are characterized by Reynolds number. Reynolds number is the ratio of inertial force to the viscous force in a fluid motion. And when viscous forces dominate over the inertial forces, when the high viscous resistance is offered for the fluid motion, then the flow will be laminar. And in such cases, we can have the turbulent forces neglected, they are not significant. In such cases, we have Ma is equal to gravity force plus pressure force plus viscous force, and we call this equation of motion as Navier-Stokes equation of motion, which is used in the analysis of viscous flows, where only three forces are considered. And again, in this equation, if you consider the flow to be an ideal fluid, then the viscous resistance is negligible. So even though all the fluids are real in nature, ideal approximation solves problem by simplifying to a greater extent. Most of the process problems are simplified with this assumption of ideal fluid. In such cases, Ma is equal to Fg plus Fp. So only gravitational force and pressure force are considered for analysis of a problem. This kind of equation of motion is called as Euler's equation of motion, and this is generally used in the analysis of steady flow of a non-viscous fluid. I'm going to explain the derivation of Euler's equation of motion. Consider a streamline in which flow is taking place, and the direction is S. And we have considered here a small cylindrical element of length ds. You can see the length here. This is the length, and since it's cylindrical element, it has got two circular faces, for which one pressure force is acting in the direction S, that is P into dA, and in the direction opposite to that direction on the other side, there is force acting P plus dou P by dou S into ds into A, that is incremental pressure multiplied by A. So we have it like this. And also there is a third force acting here, that is the weight due to the weight of the element, that is the force due to weight, that is rho g into dA ds, that is nothing but specific weight multiplied by volume. Rho g is the specific weight, dA and ds is the volume of the cylindrical element. And so to list them out, there are three forces acting on the fluid element, out of which two are pressure forces and one is weight component. And now there is another consideration made, that is theta, which is the angle between the direction of streamline and the weight, the line of action of weight. Okay, so because of that, since the length of the element is ds, and if you consider the vertical height of the element dz, then cosine of theta will be equal to dz by ds. Now applying Newton's second law of motion for this small fluid element, the resultant force in the direction S should be equal to the mass multiplied by acceleration in that direction S. Since there are two components, two forces acting, pressure force and weight, will list them out. And remember, PdA is acting in the direction S, and the pressure force P plus dou P by dou S into dou S, ds multiplied by dA is acting in negative S direction. So we know that mass is density by volume. So in terms of density and cross-sectional area and also the length, it is M is equal to rho dA ds. Similarly, weight is mg. So rho dA s ds multiplied by g will get you weight. And also acceleration in any direction is given by the rate of change of velocity in that direction. And since velocity is a function of the direction, since we consider one dimensional flow here, s, that is in space, that is along the streamline, and also time, we have this dv by dt equal to dou v by dou s multiplied by ds by dt plus dou v divided by dou t. And you know that this last term dou v by dou t will be 0 for a steady flow. So then AS will be equal to V into dou v by dou s, because ds by dt is equal to v. Before going ahead with simplification steps, I want to mention that there are four important assumptions made in this derivation, that is that of a steady flow, incompressible flow, inviscid flow, and irrotational flow. This will be discussed in detail later in this session, because this becomes restrictions to the application of Euler's equation of motion or the Bernoulli's equation, which will be derived from Euler's equation of motion. So carefully rearranging the terms, we can have this equation, and then considering ds by dou s in each term and cancelling them, we can have dou p dA plus rho dA v dou v plus rho g dA dc is equal to 0. And now cancelling dA in each term, we get dou p plus rho v dou v plus rho g into dc is equal to 0. And dividing the equation by rho, will end up with dou p by rho plus v dou v plus g into dz is equal to 0. And this is called as Euler's equation of motion applied for steady flow along a streamline. And one of the assumptions is applied here, and we can apply the later assumptions in the next slide. So this is the equation we just obtained, and now integrating this equation, we have the right hand side of that becomes 0, because integral of 0 can be a constant. And going further, we can know that integral of v dou v is equal to v square by 2, and the integral of dc is z. And if rho is independent, if it is constant, the flow is considered as incompressible. If it is dependent parameter, then, or if it is changing with respect to the flow situations, then you can't consider rho as constant. So now this is a general equation for steady flow. If now for incompressible flow where rho is constant, then we can take this rho out of the integral, and then dou p becomes p, that is integral of dou p is p, and p is not a function of rho, so we have p by rho plus v square by 2 plus g into z is equal to constant. Remember, this is applicable for steady incompressible flow. And now dividing this equation by g, we get p by rho g plus v square by 2g plus z is equal to constant. Remember this equation, this will be used throughout this fluid dynamics, and also later in the chapters related to flow losses. We'll be elaborating this in the next few slides. This equation is called as Bernoulli's equation, which is very similar to your steady flow energy equation. In your thermodynamics, you must have studied a steady flow energy equation, and in that equation we have considered this as an open system, and also Q and W, that is heat loss from the system or to the system, is neglected, and also shaft work, that is the work done by the system is or on the system is neglected. So energy equation, when you apply all these simplification assumption steps, then reduces to Bernoulli's equation. So you can conclude that energy equation is the most general equation from which you can deduce Bernoulli's equation. But I am not going through those steps of deduction. So now we want to have the statement of Bernoulli's theorem understood properly. So we'll recall this Bernoulli's equation for steady incompressible flow along a streamline in inviscid regions, that is for a non-viscous flow. And now multiplying this whole equation by weight, weight is mass into acceleration due to gravity, and mass is density multiplied by volume. So if you consider volume as V, and then we can obtain W weight is equal to rho into V into G. Substituting this in the equation, we can get an equation finally simplified to P into V. Remember, this V is volume and not velocity, and then plus half mv square plus mgz is equal to constant. And if you recall from SFE, this P into V can be considered as flow energy or flow work, the energy due to the flow, and this kinetic energy half mv square is due to the energy possessed by a body by virtue of its motion. And we know that mgz is the potential head or potential energy, that is because of its height. And now we can arrive at an expression for Bernoulli's theorem that the sum of kinetic potential and flow energies of a particle along a streamline in a steady ideal flow of an incompressible fluid is constant. This is very important to understand here that the total energy, which is the sum of all these mechanical forms of energy, flow, potential and kinetic energy, remains the same for a fluid particle along a streamline for these assumed flow case situations. That is Bernoulli's theorem. Bernoulli's theorem is the simplest theorem, or Bernoulli's equation is the simplest equation which can be used to analyze a flow situation. And we have different variations of this, and assuming a flow to be viscous, and when there is a frictional losses, need not be viscous. In such cases, the Bernoulli's equation can be modified, which will be learned later on in the next succeeding sessions. The Bernoulli's equation, what we derived, is already in the form of energy head. Okay, we'll understand what exactly is energy head. Energy head is energy of a fluid to its weight. Since we encounter many of the times this term energy per unit weight, so most of the we can replace this energy by energy head. They are equivalent. If you come across the first term P by rho g, that is obtained by pressure energy by weight. So pressure energy or flow energy is P into V divided by weight reduces it to P by rho g. So we can call that as pressure head. And the next term is called kinetic head, which is the ratio of kinetic energy to weight of the fluid. Half mv square by mg is equal to v square by 2g. Mg is the weight of the fluid element as we know it. Plus there is this potential head, which is the ratio of potential energy to the weight of the fluid element. You know that potential energy is mgz and weight is m into g. So we get z as the potential head. And now if you sum them up, that equation is pressure head plus kinetic head plus potential head is equal to constant. That means the total head, which is the sum of kinetic, potential and flow energy or pressure energy head of a fluid particle, is constant along a streamline considering case of steady incompressible and irrotational flow. And remember, this is very important. All the energy head terms, whether it is pressure head, kinetic head or potential head, as you can notice from potential head, it's only z. Z is actually in represents the height, and so because of that, energy head is expressed in height of fluid column. Whenever you write P by rho g is equal to some value, that should be associated with some fluid column height. That means you have to express either it in terms of meters of water or meters of oil or centimeters of water. So SI unit is meters, so you can express either P by rho g or V square by 2g or Z as meters of water or meters of air likewise. There is another important way we can express this Bernoulli's equation. So multiplying this equation by rho into g, that is specific weight, we get P plus rho v square by 2 plus rho g into z is equal to constant. Now the first term is, that is P, is what you see used in your thermodynamics. So it is the actual thermodynamic pressure, which is termed as static pressure. And the next term, rho v square by 2, is called as dynamic pressure, and it represents the rise in pressure when the fluid motion is stopped suddenly isentropically. So if there is a fluid flow and if there is a stopping of that fluid flow, and you can see a rise in column of a fluid, or you can see this dynamic pressure, that is rho v square. If the initial velocity of that at the before the stopping of this fluid is v, then the dynamic pressure for that fluid of density rho is rho v square by 2. And hydrostatic pressure, which you have come across already in hydrostatics, it is not a pressure in real sense, because you know that as you go deeper and deeper, the pressure difference is directly proportional to the height or depth. And this hydrostatic pressure is given by rho g into z, and this is always depends on the reference line selected, and it accounts for all the height differences or elevation effects. Okay. That now the sum of all these three pressure terms, that is static pressure, dynamic pressure, and hydrostatic pressure, is called as total pressure. And hence Bernoulli's equation implies that the total pressure along a streamline is constant, as you can look at the equation. And there is another terminology, the sum of static and dynamic pressure. The first two terms is called as stagnation pressure, which will be dealt in the next session. We'll take it up here in the next slide about stagnation pressure. Stagnation pressure is the sum of static pressure and dynamic pressure. We can understand this as P plus rho v square by 2 according to the equations used, terminologies. Stagnation pressure actually represents the pressure at a point where the fluid is brought to a complete stop isentropically. Okay. This can be understood with the help of this pitot tube working along with a piezometer. A piezometer is a static pressure probe. When this piezometer, we have learned earlier the use of piezometer. The pressure at a point, it is the simplest device to measure the pressure at a point. We call that as a static pressure point. So any pressure at a point can be measured with the help of simple static pressure probe or a tube. You can see a vertical tube that is of a piezometer installed in the pipeline. The height of the fluid gives you the static pressure P. And if a fluid particle moving with a velocity of v is stopped with the help of a pitot tube at the stagnation point. Okay, let me remind you, this pitot tube is a bent tube which is placed in the line of fluid direction, and if it is closely observed, the fluid particle, when it comes and hits the entry point of the pitot tube, all this, the pressure gets converted into dynamic pressure, and there will be, adding to this height from the fluid static pressure, there will be an additional rise in the column in the pitot tube, which is termed as rho v square by 2. which is actually dynamic pressure. And the difference between the level of fluid in the piezometer and the pitot tube is nothing but this dynamic pressure. So basically pitot tube measures the static pressure, and when these static and stagnation pressures are measured at a specific location, then we can rearrange the equation for stagnation pressure and write the expression for velocity at that point. So V now is root of 2 multiplied by P stagnation minus P by rho. So this equation is widely used in measuring velocity at a point in a fluid flow. That is, in this case, it is used a combination of a static pressure top, that is of a piezometer. You can have different arrangements for that, and also a pitot tube. This is one of the important applications. Remember, fluid dynamics has its importance in fluid flow measurement and measurement of losses also. And this static pressure drop as shown in the picture, piezometer is simply a small hole drilled into the wall such that the plane of the hole is parallel to the flow direction, and you can insert a glass tube so that you can measure what is the static pressure. And I recall this again, that the dynamic pressure is the difference between stagnation pressure and static pressure, which can be measured as the difference in levels of liquids in the the pitot tube and the piezometer. So this is one way of measuring velocity at a point. From continuity equation, Q is given by A into V. Our mass flow rate is given by rho into A into V. When the conditions are known for rho, A and V, you can find out their respective flow rates. The most important application arises from the equation, Bernoulli's equation applied between any 2 points on the same streamline. So shown here are different streamlines, and on one of those streamlines I have considered 2 points 1 and 2. There is a flow along this streamline. Now applying this Bernoulli's equation between these 2 points, we have P1 by rho g plus V1 square by 2g plus Z1 is equal to P2 by rho g plus V2 square by 2g plus Z2. So that means the left hand side is the total energy head at point 1, the right hand side is the total energy head at point 2. These two are equal. For a steady flow and incompressible flow and an ideal flow and also irrotational flow, this equation is valid. Hence Bernoulli's theorem or Bernoulli's equation implies that the sum of the pressure, kinetic and potential energy heads are equivalent of a fluid particle at points 1 and 2 is constant along a streamline during steady ideal flow of an incompressible fluid. The last part of this session is to discuss limitations of the use of Bernoulli's equation. We have made many assumptions here. To list out few, this Bernoulli's equation what we have just derived is applicable only for steady flow, frictionless flow, that is inviscid flow, and there should not be any shaft work, and the rho should be constant, and the heat transfer should not be there from the system or to the system. And also this is applicable for flow along a streamline. But let us discuss this in detail. I want to have a detailed discussion on this, so let us go with this. Since this is applicable only to steady flow, this Bernoulli's equation cannot be applied during a transient startup or shutdown period when the pressure is building up or when the pressure is reducing in a flow. Then you can't apply this Bernoulli's equation to such situations, or when the velocity is changing in the flow, then at a given point, then you can't use it. For frictionless flow, we know that considering for a larger section, the two short sections with very low velocity flow velocities, these frictional effects are not so dominant. Consider a very large pipe. Consider a very large pipe, short pipe, and in the radial direction or in the axial directions, the velocity has got least effect from the boundary, because the boundary is distant from the center region. So we can have the negligible effect of this frictional effects. The wall boundary effects are significant for smaller and long, the long tubes which are very smaller or narrow tubes. You can see the first sketch there, which is for long and narrow tube. In such cases, we are limited to apply this Bernoulli's equation. We can't apply this. And also, when there is a flow separation possible because of sudden expansion in the downstream of flow from point 1 to 2, if there are any chances of flow getting separated where you can't assume this continuum, and we cannot apply this Bernoulli's equation. And also solid surfaces where the wakes are possible because of the boundary flow gets separated over the streamline flow, or even in such streamline flow wakes are possible, and in such cases wherein this wakes are possible wakes are happening in the downstream region of an object, that is a common case in aerodynamics, flow over an aircraft. So in such cases you can't use this, but before the flow reaches the fluid aerodynamic model, then you can apply this Bernoulli's equation. Once it comes out of this model, then the flow gets separated. You can't apply the Bernoulli's equation. And when a partially closed valve is there, and because it applies flow restriction, and also when there is a continuous mixing of flow and there is a backflow of fluid, then in such cases streamline structure flow is disturbed. In such cases also we cannot apply Bernoulli's equation. When it comes to fan or compressor or blower, there is an impeller which destroys these streamlines, and continuous energy interaction between the fluid particles takes place. In such cases, we cannot apply the Bernoulli's equation. If you look at the sketch there, the fluid before it comes to the fan is applicable. Used with Bernoulli's equation, but once it crosses the fan blades, okay, then this section cannot be applied with Bernoulli's equation, because there is a shaft work added here. It can be sharp shaft work input or an output. Input in case of fans and output in case of turbines. However, this can be used prior to the flow machine. That's what I just briefed it. We know that for compressible flow density will change, but for incompressible flow density rho is constant, and this compressible effects are better understood with the help of characteristic number Mach, that is dimensionless number, Mach number. Mach number basically is the ratio of velocity of fluid with respect to velocity of sound in the same fluid, or if it is still fluid, then velocity of object through that still fluid to the velocity of sound in the fluid is considered to be Mach number. When the velocity of fluid is higher compared to the velocity of sound, then we can have this, we can say that Mach number is greater than 1. Based on this, we can have different regimes of flow. For m is equal to 1, that is Mach number 1, we call that as sonic flow. Less than 1, we call that as subsonic flow. Greater than 1, supersonic, and very much greater than 1, hypersonic. And when this Mach number is very much closer to this sonic flow, then we can call that as transonic flow. And these compressible effects are considered only for Mach number greater than 0.3. Look at that. When the velocity of fluid is approximately zero point 0.3 times the velocity of sound, we still can treat that problem as incompressible flow. When this velocity of fluid crosses much beyond this 0 0.3 times velocity of sound in the fluid, then compressibility effects to be accounted for. So for the problem when this rho is constant and Mach number is less than 0.3, then the flow becomes incompressible. And remember, Bernoulli's equation can be applied only to such cases. And for a case of heating section in a, consider a pipe flow from point 1 to 2, between which there is a heating section. There is heat transfer being added to the system. In such cases, this Bernoulli's equation cannot be applied. In the derivation itself, we have taken the flow along a streamline in the direction s. So definitely this Bernoulli's equation is applicable along a streamline. The value of this constant c, then that is nothing but p by rho g plus v square by 2g plus z is a constant for a streamline. So it is different for different streamline. But what happens in case of series of lines, particularly when the flow becomes irrotational, remember, all these streamlines will have the same value of constant. So at different points, and also along different streamlines, this values of total head, energy head, becomes the same. It becomes same. So if you consider 1 and 2 are different points in that along the streamlines, when the flow is irrotational, you can say that energy head is equal to c. Because of that, you can say this is one exemption. The flow when it is irrotational, because if you have assumed irrotational flow, then Bernoulli's equation becomes applicable between any 2 points along the flow. Not just, it need not be just on the same streamline, but it can be on the different streamline also. This is an important limitation.